Eric and Kouri Richins seem to be living the perfect little life. The attractive young couple had 3 young boys and were doing very well financially living in Utah. They traveled, had a beautiful home, and spent a lot of family time with their boys. But beneath the exterior, something else was happening. Family members say Eric suspected his wife of trying to poison him, giving him food and drinks laced with poison. Eric got so suspicious that he changed his life insurance and will to give his money to his sister, who he trusted to take care of the kids. Now, prosecutors say Eric was right. He died in March of 2022, a victim of fentanyl poisoning. After his death, Kouri wrote a book for her children to help them deal with the loss of their father. And just after the release of the book, Kouri was arrested and charged with murder. Tonight, we take a closer look at the alleged motive in this seemingly happy family as we investigate the suspicious death of Eric Richins. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks for joining us. Imagine that you suspect your spouse, the mother of your children, is trying to poison you. Just try to understand that. You stay with her, keeping the family together, but then you die of fentanyl poisoning. That's what we're talking about in this case. That's exactly what we are talking about in this case. Eric and Kouri Richins, he was an extremely successful guy, met his wife, fell in love, they started a family. Like, you would think they're living a great life to be young and wealthy with healthy children. You've got it all. Ted Rowlands has the rest of the story for us tonight.
No matter if it's a parent, a sibling, or a friend, talking about loss with kids can be a tricky subject.
Joining us now is author of Are You With Me?, Kouri Richins.
A year after her husband Eric died, Kouri Richins began promoting her children's book, which counseled kids on how to deal with grief. In an interview with ABC4, she explained what inspired her to write the book.
My husband passed away unexpectedly last year. It completely took us all by shock.
2 months after this television appearance, Richins would be charged in connection to fatally poisoning her husband Eric.
She stated that the last time that she saw Eric alive was between 9:30 and 9:45 p.m. She stated that before going to bed, they had had a drink together to celebrate closing on a house for her business. And one of the children had a nightmare, and that the defendant got out of bed and went to be with that child in their bedroom. Around 3 a.m. when she woke, she stated she returned to her own bedroom, got into bed, and felt that Eric was cold to the touch. Based on the interviews that we conducted with those who knew Eric well, all stated that he did not use illicit drugs other than consuming THC gummies on occasion.
They knew that he didn't die of a drug overdose that he had caused himself. They knew that he was suspicious of Kouri.
According to court documents, prosecutors believe that Kouri Richins began plotting Eric's murder back in January of 2022 when she attempted to change his life insurance policy.
He knew that something was going on. He alerted his family, and he said, I think she's trying to kill me. And he even went so far as to say, if something happens to me, if something horrible happens to me, I want you to have Kouri investigated.
Kouri is desperate, greedy, and extremely manipulative. We have watched as Kouri has paraded around portraying herself as being widow and victim while trying to profit from the death of my brother.
She loved Eric. She loved her family more than anything, and anyone that actually knows her knows that she's just incapable of doing that.
I just wanted some story to read to my kids, and it's just comforting to them to know that, you know, they're not living this life alone. Like, Dad is still here, it's just in a different way.
I want to take a look at a document, and this is associated with the civil lawsuit in this case. There's a civil lawsuit against Kouri Richins, but this is in the complaint, and I think it sheds a lot of light on what may have been going on here. Take a look. Upon information belief, starting as early as 2016, Kouri began having serious financial troubles. Kouri informed KRR on April 26 in order to facilitate her business of buying and selling and flipping houses. Okay, she was in the business of flipping houses. She was taking money from Eric's bank accounts and running up debts on credit cards in Eric's name without Eric's knowledge. Her own husband. By the end of 21, KRR was approximately $6 million in debt. And KRR's bank account was overdrawn by $22,000. February 22, Kouri or her business owed at least $1.8 million to hard money lenders. And in the days prior to Eric's death, she had at least 7 phone calls with one or more of those lenders. Between 2014 and 2022, Kouri obtained several policies of insurance on Eric's life. Secret policies. Each of the secret policies named Kouri as the sole beneficiary. Kouri falsified Eric's signature and other details on other applications that she submitted for purposes of obtaining these policies. After Eric's death, Kouri filed death claims on each of the secret policies. Kouri received over $1.5 million in insurance proceeds as a direct result of Eric's death. Was the motive monetary? Her flipping business, flipping houses? You know, you watch these cable channels. It looks so easy. You just buy it, you fix it up, and you sell it, and you make a lot of money. Well, the real world's a little different. Apparently, she wasn't doing that well. Could this be the motive? Let's bring in our special guest joining us. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, and the attorney representing the family of the victim, Eric Richins. Greg Skordas is with us. Also joining us, the co-host of the extremely popular Surviving the Survivor podcast, Joel Waldman. Great to see both of you. Greg, do we believe this is the motivating factor if, in fact, she committed this murder?
It's the overwhelming motivation here, Vinnie. Finances. She was a terrible financial manager. She was a terrible realtor. She was not good at flipping homes. Eric was a successful businessman, and he had a lot going for him. She used his money. She used his name. She used his contacts in the business, and she still failed miserably, as you just indicated when you pointed out the finances and the problems that she was having. He became suspicious of her, and she realized, Vinnie, that he was worth more to her dead than alive. That's why she took out the insurance policies. That's why she caused his death. And that's why she created this business, KRR, which was her failing real estate business. And she was hoping to make money. And she hoped to make a lot of money off of his death.
Joel, looking at, this is a husband and wife, but not just a husband and wife, a mother and father, 3 little ones at home. And it's hard for me to really understand how someone could be that invested in flipping houses versus raising children, having a successful marriage, all the things that were already there in place.
Yeah, I mean, it is a real puzzle when you try to figure this out, Vinny. I mean, Eric Richins comes from money and was successful in his own right. And Kouri Richins, I don't know if a lot of people know this, spotted Eric while she was working at a Home Depot, basically an hourly wage type job. And they, kind of evolved into a romance, and things took off from there. But, she was clearly interested in him financially. I mean, the 3 biggest motives, I've had enough lawyers and law enforcement officers to know that it's sex, money, or drugs. In this case, it might be a little bit of both. She's said to have had a paramour as well, but certainly money is what she was interested in. She was sure good at losing it, and so she needed Eric to get some of that back. And as Greg so astutely pointed out, he was worth a lot more to her dead than alive at that point.
Well, let's talk about the alleged paramour here, because this comes from the amended criminal complaint. And this was a bit of a bombshell, at least to me, when I first heard it, because I was thinking money, money, money. But now it seems like there may be something else in addition to supplement that. 7/22 on March 3rd, 2022, the night of Eric Richins' death, the defendant's paramour text messaged the defendant a photograph of 2 people kissing that was captioned, "Love you." At 8:36, the defendant responded, "Love you," with a kiss emoji. And the allegation is that Kouri poisoned Eric with a Moscow Mule shortly thereafter at 9 o'clock. Greg, what do we know about this alleged paramour, and do we expect to hear from him at trial?
I actually think we will hear from him, and what we know about him is somewhat secretive at this point, but I believe that he has come forward. I believe, just from reading between the lines in the supplemental filings that the state has prepared in this case, and some of their briefings that they filed in the days leading up to the preliminary hearing, that he's probably now cooperating with the state. We don't know that for sure, but based on what you just read, what Joel indicated earlier, his existence, the fact that he was involved with her has come out, and her motivation to get as much money as possible and leave and be with him seems to be part of her motivation here to do what she did. And I believe that he is now a state's witness.
Joel, you talk about a marriage, having someone to be with, someone to share your life with. Well, if you poison your husband and you've got someone in the on-deck circle, it tends to make a little more sense that, oh, okay, she's ready to move on, she's got someone else, but doesn't have the money that she needs. So this, from the prosecution perspective, is an easy story to tell.
100%. I mean, sadly, Vinny, we see it all the time, and I've had Greg on my show many times. He's an expert in this case and many others. But clearly here, Kouri had the motivation to kill him, sadly. I just wonder, why don't more people just simply say, let's get a divorce? She could have, I'm sure, had financial gains through other men, but she chose, it appears, by all accounts, to have poisoned him. And Vinny, this was not the first time. On Valentine's Day of the same year, she said to have poisoned him, and he became really ill, had to go to the hospital. And then I guess went on to trust her, thinking it wouldn't happen again. But lo and behold, we find out that in 2022, it happens with 5 times the lethal dose of illicit fentanyl. And that's all it took. We know how dangerous fentanyl is. It was 5 times the dose, and he's no longer with us. I just want to say one other thing that Greg can speak to is that Kouri Richins' family has basically tried to smear Eric Richins' good name, saying that, he was involved with affairs and drug abuse, and there is no indication that any of that is true. This was a one-way street when it came to infidelity and just the sickness attributed to her.
Greg, we have about 15 seconds. Why did he stay if he suspected her? Do we know?
3 reasons, Vinny, and those are the boys that they had together. He was above everything else. He was a father, a loving father who wanted to take care of those boys, and he was going to do whatever he could to try to keep the family together. And he died doing that.
Our guests will stay with us. When we come back, the next question we need to tackle in this investigation: where did the drugs actually come from?
A former ballerina charged in the death of her husband.
Said that she attacked her and she shot him.
She's claiming that he is the aggressor in all of this.
I see a liar. I see a manipulator. She killed my dad.
Will the jury see her actions as self-defense?
Boy, did she have every reason to fear him.
Or murder.
The Black Swan murder trial. Live coverage this week following jury selection on Court TV.
Our concerns for Kouri. We just want the best outcome here. We want an honest, fair trial. That's it. I know her innocence, and that's all that matters. And it will come out. It's just time.
That's Kouri Richins' mother, who's been there supporting her daughter, who's charged with poisoning her husband and killing him. The allegation is that it was a Moscow Mule laced with fentanyl. So the question is, where did the drugs come from? Here's what prosecutors are saying. Sometime in early 2022, according to an acquaintance of Richins known as CL, Richins reaches out and asks that she procures some fentanyl for her. Phone records allegedly show that Richins texted or called CL several times in that month. February 5th, 2022. In the pursuit of locating the fentanyl, CL reaches out to acquaintance 1. A Facebook message from CL to acquaintance 1 at 1:37 p.m. reads, "Text me, I've got a question, won't do it on this." In response, acquaintance 1 provided CL with the phone number of acquaintance 2. February 11th, CL meets acquaintance 2 at the Maverick gas station and purchases from him 15 to 30 round, light green blue pills, which he understood to be fentanyl. CL hand delivers those pills to Richins shortly thereafter. February 14th, Valentine's Day, Kouri prepares a sandwich for Eric, accompanied by a love note. Shortly after consuming the sandwich, Eric breaks out in hives and had difficulty breathing. He administered his son's EpiPen and falls asleep. He later tells his friends he believes Kouri was trying to poison him. Then we move to late February of 2022. Kouri reaches out to CL and asks that she procures some more, telling her that the fentanyl pills she provided were not strong enough. She specifically asked she procure some of the Michael Jackson stuff. February 26th, CL contacts acquaintance 2, arranges a meetup, and purchases additional fentanyl from the gas station later that day. March 3rd, Kouri prepares a Moscow Mule for Eric to celebrate her closing on a house. 4 hours later, she claims to have awoken to find him cold to the touch. Our guests still with us, Greg Skordas and Joel Waldman. Greg, let's talk about these witnesses in trying to establish all of this. CL, is this, was this someone who would do some maintenance or cleaning of the home from time to time?
Yeah, that's actually where it started. This is a woman that Kouri and Eric had used to clean their home that Kouri recognized was a person who had a history, who had a criminal history, who had a drug history. And because of that, Kouri knew that she would be a person who could procure drugs for her, especially opioids, especially fentanyl. And that's exactly what happened. Kouri even went so far as to write her a check. I mean, who writes a check for drugs in this day and age? But that's exactly what happened. She procured them. She got not enough the first time, and she did exactly what you just said, Vinnie. She said, hey, I need more. I need the Michael Jackson stuff. Of course, Michael Jackson didn't die from fentanyl by any means. But what she meant was, I need a lethal dose. I need something stronger than what you've given me. And as Joel said in the last segment, 5 times the lethal dose is what she ended up giving him. She wasn't going to have him just wake up sick like he had on her previous 2 homicide attempts. She wanted to make sure that this one was done correctly and reach the results that she was intending.
Joel, the credibility of these witnesses will be crucial in the case. But you talk about the contact, and then the fact that it's done twice, to me, is the most significant part. It starts with the sandwich. He suspects something, but he stays, and she prepares that Moscow Mule.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Obviously, when you've got a convicted drug dealer and this housekeeper is a convicted drug dealer, it's obviously an issue of credibility for the attorneys. But to your point just now, it didn't happen once, it happened twice that we know of. And the second time, unfortunately, was endgame for Eric Richins. You know, the Michael Jackson drug, of course, was propofol to Greg's point, so it was not fentanyl, but we hear stories, sadly, about fentanyl every single day in the news, and it is extremely deadly. Even just a whiff of it can kill you. 3 little granules of illicit fentanyl on the street can kill someone. 3 little salt-like granules. You know, the other thing, Vinnie, about this is you look at her photo, and she's just so demure and benign looking. I mean, this looks like the all-American housewife, which is what is partly so haunting about this case. You know, Eric, I don't think suspected that a person who outwardly appears like this could be so incredibly sinister on the inside.
And the other part, bringing fentanyl into a home where there are children as well, is extremely problematic. Greg Skordas, I don't know how big of an issue this may be, but as Joel mentioned, fentanyl so extremely dangerous. Just the preparation of this Moscow Mule could be potentially dangerous to the person who's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, fentanyl is many more times more potent than oxys, than other opioids that are commonly used. It's a drug that is really insidious, and it's taken over the addiction society now. It's really one of the biggest drugs in America. And Joel's right. I mean, it's a very dangerous drug. It's not regulated very well. It's not appropriated very well. It's hard to mix it. It's hard, if you're buying it on the street, to get it a quantity that will give you a high as opposed to kill you. I mean, it was the kind of drug that Kouri was looking for to get the job done, not to mess around with Eric anymore, not to make him sick anymore, not to make him convulse, but to kill him. And that's exactly what it did.
And the other part, Joel, because we know of the epidemic, is that if he is found to die from fentanyl, there's always an alternative potential explanation. And obviously, we know that's where they're going to go. But that may be one of the reasons why this was chosen as a potential manner.
Yeah, look, I mean, she was probably trying to be sneaky, thinking no one would catch wind of this. She went to bed, I think, with the boys that night and then crawls into bed later in the evening. And as we heard in the piece earlier on, he was cold to the touch. She knew exactly what was happening. And the other thing here that is so incredibly chilling is the video from Ted Rowland's piece where you see her going on a local Salt Lake City TV show to promote this book that's about grieving the loss of your father and husband. She even dedicates the book to the quote-unquote amazing husband. Are You With Me is the title. You see it right there. And to just be able to have the chutzpah, the audacity, as we say in New York and Miami, to go on a local TV station and say that she was writing this because she was thinking about her husband, knowing full well that she's behind his death, is just beyond the pale, Vinnie.
Joel Waldman, host of Surviving the Survivor. Appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much. Greg Scoris, you're going to stay with us for a little bit. When we come back, we've got another question to take a look at. Did Kouri Richins try to get her brother, you're looking at him right here, to lie for her? We'll take a look at that next.
She met up with acquaintance 2 at a Maverick gas station in Draper and purchased from him 15 to 30 round green-blue pills, which she understood to be fentanyl.
There was no fentanyl or traces of fentanyl found in the home anywhere.
1 or 2 pills might be accidental. 20 or 5 times the lethal dose is not accidental, Your Honor. That is someone who wants Eric dead.
Since Eric's death, we have learned and unfortunately are continually reminded that Kouri is desperate, greedy, and extremely manipulative. We have watched as Kouri has paraded around portraying herself as a living widow, and victim while trying to profit from the death of my brother.
Kouri Richins been accused of murdering her husband by lacing a Moscow mule that she gave to him with fentanyl and poisoning him. They've accused her of doing that one time prior, but not successfully, with a sandwich about a month before, several weeks beforehand. So she gets arrested, charged with the murder, and while she's incarcerated, there was some controversy involving something that was found in her cell in her book. It's been referred to as the Walk the Dog letter, a letter that apparently was put in an envelope for her attorney, but was really for her family. And when you go through this letter, it seems that it could be interpreted in a way that she is attempting to communicate with her family to get her brother to lie for her about her husband, Eric Richins, going down to buy fentanyl because he had a drug problem, a secret drug problem, and he would go down to Mexico to get the fentanyl. So that seems to be the backdrop for this, at least the allegations by prosecutors. So let's take a look and a listen to that letter as read by one of my producers.
She wants to link Eric getting the drugs and pills from Mexico, so we need some kind of connection. Her private investigator is doing some research on the ranch cartel place Eric would stay at. Here's what I'm thinking, but you have to talk to Ronnie. He would probably have to testify to this, but it's super short, not a lot to it. He will need to talk to Skye at the meeting next week. Upon information and belief, just like they say, a year prior to Eric's death, Ronnie was over watching football one Sunday, and Eric and Ronnie were chatting about Eric's Mexico trips. Eric told Ronnie he gets pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico from the workers on the ranch, but not to tell me because I would get mad because I always said he just gets high every night and won't help take care of kids. Ronnie should have texts from Eric talking about getting high as well. Eric told Ronnie he keeps them in an allergy pill bottle in his work truck so I wouldn't find them. Ronnie never told me about the conversation. Eric finally told me and asked if Carmen could get him some. Eric never wanted anyone to know he had an issue, especially get caught. He always wanted Kouri to go down for him. Reword this however he needs to make the point just to include it all. The connection has to be made with Mexico and the drugs. Ronnie will have the messages to prove Eric confided in him about getting high. He can be short and to the point, but it has to be done. When you talk to Ronnie about this, meet up with him in person. I worry sometimes your house and phone are bugged. Tell him I need him to do this. Bring me home, and then we will get those damn bitches. We're so close to the end. Let's push through. Have the conversation with Ronnie before he meets with Sky. Then tell him to tell Sky at the meeting about the conversation. Hang in there. We're almost there. Love you to the moon.
The Sky they're referring to is Kouri Richins' former attorney, who's no longer representing her. But that's how she's seemingly attempting to coordinate all that. Let's bring back in our guest, still with us, the attorney representing the family of Eric Richins, Greg Skordas, and now joining us, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist, professor at Pepperdine University and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment. Dr. Judy Ho is with us. Dr. Judy Ho, as we listen to that letter, the key parts of that letter, what are you hearing? I hear someone that feels like she can sort of control everything, even from the inside.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at this letter, Vinnie, it looks like there's a trail of potential ideas, manipulations, just thinking about how this is all going to go according to a specific plan. And that goes against her public statements, right? Of saying, hey, the world has yet to know who I am. I did not do any of this, I had nothing to do with this, proclaiming her innocence, even writing this children's book about grieving after her husband died. Now you're kind of seeing this other side where this is not something that someone comes up with overnight. This is something that someone has been thinking about for a long time after observing someone's behavior the way that an intimate partner can, because you know your husband's in and outs and what they're into.
Greg Skordas, do we know how this letter got into the hands of prosecutors in this case?
Yes, exactly. We do, Vinnie, and that is because it was in her cell. And we know that there is really not much of an expectation of privacy to letters and documents that you have within your cell. Now, there's an exclusion to that for letters that are sent to your attorney. Attorney-client privilege conversations are just privileged, like I said. This was a letter to her mother that's even styled Walk the Dog. It was never meant for Sky Lazaro, her lawyer, her former lawyer. It was meant as a letter to her mother, which the jail administration found while they were doing a routine investigation into her cell. They found that, they turned it over to the prosecutors. She's been claiming that it was either A, a letter to her attorney, but she's not going to write a letter to her attorney telling her attorney to go walk the dog, or B, it was a letter that was sort of fanciful, a story, some sort of narrative that she was trying to make up for a book someday. But it's really, Vinnie, exactly what the narrator just said, the person that read it. It's very clear and detailed instructions for her brother Ronnie for what to say to make it appear that Eric had a drug problem, that he was really the cause of his own death. He overdosed, when in fact he didn't have a drug problem, he didn't have a drug issue, and he didn't overdose by something he did himself. He was killed.
I want to put up on the screen and you alluded to it, the explanation for this letter from Kouri Richins, because there's always two sides to everything in a trial. On September 16th, 2023, the defendant had a telephone call with her mother. The defendant described the Walk the Dog letter as an excerpt of a fictional book that the defendant is writing about her stay in a Mexican prison. The defendant explains in pertinent part, when I first got in here, I was telling you how I was writing a book. Those papers were not a letter to you guys. They were part of my freaking book. I was writing, sounds like Dr. Evil there. I was writing this fictional mystery book. I go to Mexico and I'm like trying to find these drugs. I'm writing about Dad, like me and Dad went to Mexico to find these drugs. You can very much tell the whole thing is very much a story. Let's take a listen now to her brother, who was asked about this letter.
I think they're going after that pretty hard. I don't really have that much to say about it. From what Kouri explained to me, it was just a fictitious letter. I don't have a whole lot to really say about it. I think they're trying to harp on that quite a bit because it obviously makes her look bad, even though there's several explanations for it.
So she wasn't trying to convince you to say that you had this conversation with Eric?
No, not at all. You know, I've been outside of my mom and the closest one to their family, and trust me, I know everything that went on there. I don't need to be said or convinced to say anything that's not true.
What do you think of the family dynamic here, Dr. Judy Ho? Look, he's standing by his sister for sure, even though it looks like she was trying to get him involved in all of this.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised, Vinnie, that he gave a public statement trying to explain the letter from his own perspective. I'm not really sure if that would be advised by an attorney, but nevertheless, it sounds like he's obviously very much in defense of his sister, no matter how far-fetched it may seem to say that this was a fictional account when the letter bears so much resemblance to what's been going on in her life prior to her husband dying. And I think when you see family dynamics like this, and I know, Vinnie, you've covered stories like this, you know, the family does stick together. Sometimes there's possibilities where either they have knowledge of the plot, or they're supportive of the plot, or maybe they were even active in the plot. So we don't know to the extent that the family is involved or not involved in this case. But like I said, I'm really shocked that he would give such a statement of support when the letter on its face seems ludicrous to say that it is just a children's story when it bears so much resemblance to her real life.
Greg Skordas, what do we know about Kouri Richins' family, and what do we expect their role to be in this trial?
We know that they are very defensive of her. We know that they are willing to say and do whatever they can to help her. We know that there have been some prior, I'll just say it, her mother's former lover died of a fentanyl overdose, or at least a apparent drug overdose. So there seems to be some history, at least some knowledge to what these drugs can do and to what can happen here. We also know that they will say and do whatever they can to help her. Her brother, Ronnie, I mean, the woman that was just spoke, the guest nailed it perfectly. You know, why would he say that? It was just the dumbest thing he could have done. And the letter clearly was, Vinnie, an attempt to change the dialogue, to have him lie, to come into court and make up a story, and there was no other purpose for the letter except that.
Dr. Judy Ho, I'm thinking about this family, and I'm thinking about this whole situation, and it could have been so different, right? It could have been so different. Eric was doing really well, like really well, 3 little kids, mom, dad, kids, but somehow she became seemingly obsessed with flipping houses.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes when there's this abrupt change in dynamic, I mean, who knows what's going on behind closed doors? They're having arguments about what she's doing. You know, maybe she's being secretive. Maybe she's changed her patterns. They're having arguments about that. They no longer have the same goals. Obviously, there's some information that she may have been in debt. There's all this kind of what I would say potential motives that would make a protracted killing a real possibility in this case, because she stands to benefit. And I don't know if people realize, so after, you know, you've covered so many of these stories, Vinnie, that the first person of interest is always the intimate partner. It's like always the case. Always. You're always going to get questioned. Always, always, always. So I think that sometimes people design these things thinking that they're going to outsmart everybody, but they don't realize that there are certain patterns that they're watching. There's multiple investigators on their case. They're going to find everything that you've ever said, did, your text messages, your letters, as in this case. But I think that sometimes people just get in over their heads. They actually believe they're going to beat law enforcement and every expert that's involved in cases like this.
Greg Skordas, appreciate your valuable time tonight. I know we'll be speaking again and again about this case. Dr. Judy Ho is going to stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about that children's book. Are you with me? Why did she write this book?
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV. This week,
We'll get you ready for the proceedings each day in the Black Swan murder trial. Plus, Friday, a voice for victims in the tragic case of Rachel Morin.
opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Why are you so certain that Kouri did not do this?
Because I know my sister. My sister, she can't even squash a spider. She loved Eric. She loved her family more than anything. And I hate to say that, unfortunately, she's being painted in this light for really bad reasons, really selfish reasons. And so, we've got to get through that. Again, I know my sister very, very well, and anyone that actually knows her knows that she's just incapable of doing that.
That's Kouri Richins' brother. Now, Kouri Richins wrote a book. This is 1 year after the alleged murder and 1 month before being arrested for that murder. She wrote a book called Are You With Me? Take a look at it. Now, I'm going to read part of this book to you. Wherever you go, whoever you become, their love remains with you. A heartwarming and reassuring book that gently guides children through the difficult experience of losing a loved one. Written by a loving mother who personally faced this challenge. This book is designed to offer comfort and solace to young minds in a way that is both accessible and engaging. With vivid and colorful illustrations, Are You With Me? Follows the story of a child who's lost their father, but who's reminded that his presence still exists all around them, just like an angel watching over them. Whether it's playing at the park or simply enjoying a quiet moment at home, the child is comforted by the knowledge that their father is always by their side. And then just before she got arrested for that murder, she went on Good Thing Utah to promote this children's book.
My husband passed away unexpectedly last year, so it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us, and he was 39. It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6. And, my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year.
So why did she really write this? What's going on here? Clinical and forensic neuropsychologist Dr. Judy Ho still with us. And joining us now, founder and CEO of Leverage with Media, public relations expert Lauren Cabello. Lauren, what are your thoughts about this children's book, the timing of it, and the fact that Kouri Richins wrote this for her own children, allegedly?
Right. Well, yeah, I work with authors day in and day out, and I'm actually a 3-time author myself. And writing a book is not an easy task. And so when you're looking at writing a children's book with narration, that's a lot of money that she has actually invested in this process, tens of thousands of dollars to actually get this book, into fruition. And so, why is she writing it? In my opinion, to cover some things up. And what I find really interesting is that she actually uses the kids' real names in this book. When we're looking at children's books, typically people are changing the names. And so she uses her kids' real names and also includes the last picture of all of them together. But, you don't get rich writing books. To me, it was kind of a way to brand herself in the good mommy image, which is what we do with our authors. And then, she actually pitched herself to go on this TV show. And so when we're looking at what is her motive behind this? To put herself in that good image, give herself that brand. And, when you're even looking on, what are the tags when you're categorizing a book? It's under a faith-based book as well, a Christian imprint, even though she self-published it. But she put a lot of money into this project.
Dr. Judy Ho, what are your thoughts about why she would write this book?
Well, one thing that Lauren mentioned is that it's kind of rare when people are writing fictional books to utilize the names of the actual people in your life, particularly children. People are very, very protective usually. Parents are very protective of their own children, especially during a grieving process, during a potential trauma. So you would think that if this wasn't about her, she might change the children's names. It might not be about her personal story. But even when she was on that talk show segment that you just showed, Vinnie, it was kind of about her. It was about her processing everything. It was kind of about her front and center in so many ways, rather than really about honoring her husband, right? And obviously everybody grieves in different ways. I'm not saying that that means something particularly, but I think when you look at the patterns of her behavior and all of the things that allegedly had happened along the way, it would make sense that this would be kind of the final piece of the puzzle, is put out this book, and even if she doesn't get rich from it, she can become famous possibly, right? She can be a household name. And so there's some aspect of this where she's really highlighting herself so much more than the grieving process of her family and particularly her children.
Well, let's talk about the children, Lauren. What are your thoughts about the way the children were used in this entire process?
Well, I think that one of the big things is using their name and likeness to earn money with the book. And that has always been a problem I see, as a mom myself, and actually, as somebody who works as a book coach, to use people's name and likeness to make money off of that. But then also, like we were talking about, you're not going to make money off of this book per se, right? That's most authors know you don't make money off of the book, but you want to protect your children at all costs, especially after they've gone through something traumatic like this. And so to be able to put their actual names in it and not to put them as your mom, you want to protect them at all costs. And she hasn't been able to do that. In most of the children's book authors that I've worked with, that is very heavily protected. The names are changed. The location is changed. It's not about them. If it is dedicated, it's usually dedicated, to the person that they're talking about. But this is a very rare occurrence where this is all about her. This is all about her becoming somebody else and really branding herself, booking herself on television shows, and getting her name out there. And what I find really interesting too, when she was on the show, she was wearing her coat on the show, which, a lot of body language experts can say that means that she's uncomfortable and she wants to escape quickly. And, even the hosts, when they were interviewed, after interviewing her about her body language on the show and things that she talked about, they said she was very cold and she wouldn't take her coat off. And I found that very telling, just in somebody who media trains people for a living, of how do you show up and be a good guest? She was very closed off, very all about her, and not protecting the children in the long run.
Big thank you, Lauren Cabello, founder of Leverage with Media and clinical and neuropsychologist. Dr. Judy Ho, thanks so much. We'll see you again really soon. Before we go tonight, folks, we have a child who is missing who needs your help. Please take a look at the screen. This is Nicholas Perez, 17 years old, missing out of Loganville, Georgia since June 24th. If you see Nicholas, take a look at his face. If you see Nicholas, pick up the phone, make the call. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or the Gwinnett County Police Department in Georgia. That phone number's on your screen. Let's see if we can get Nicholas to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.